Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, who wins? Well, in this video, I just wanted to break down for you guys this massive boxing matchup coming in less than a week, and I'll tell you how I think this fight goes. And honestly, you guys are probably not going to like what you're about to hear, but do not worry, because at the end of the video, I'll tell you guys what I'm betting on for this fight. And also, if you're interested in getting access to all of my UFC bets where the real money is made, be sure to click the link in the description from my website, ufcbettingpro.com, to get all of my UFC betting picks for every single UFC card, and you can practically get paid to watch UFC. But anyway, now let's jump into the video. First, let's talk about Jake Paul as a boxer. Even though he's trying to sell this idea that he's just a YouTuber that happens to be beating all these legendary combat athletes in the sport of boxing, the reality is he's a pretty decent boxer and a lifelong athlete with some of the greatest coaching and training behind him. And so far, throughout his boxing career, he's honestly made a lot of improvements to his game. He's went from a guy that just throws wild looping punches with no setups to a guy that actually chooses his shots and conserves his energy when needed. And on top of that, he stepped in the ring with people that arguably have more knockout power than himself, like Tyron Woodley. And surprising enough, he was able to neutralize their offense with decent footwork and clinches. Not to mention, Jake Paul himself has proven that he has real knockout power on multiple occasions. But the biggest weakness, in my opinion, to Jake Paul's game is his lack of volume. If you take a look at his last fight, for example, you'll see that he actually threw and landed less power punches than Anderson Silva, in a fight that Jake Paul won via decision. Granted, Jake Paul actually won with his decently educated jab and was able to outpoint Silva on the scorecards. Next is Tommy Fury. And I'll be honest, for someone that's supposedly the half-brother of one of the greatest ever heavyweight boxers, Tyson Fury, this guy is not very good. Like, first of all, just take a look at his record. At first glance, you'll probably see that his record is 8-0 and you'll be like, what's wrong with that? Isn't that a pretty good record? But when you actually take a look at the opponents that he's faced, you'll see that he's faced the biggest tomato cans on the entire planet. 10 wins and 102 losses, 0 wins and 26 losses, 2 wins and 26 losses, 0 wins and 11 losses, 0 wins and 9 losses. The fact is, even though Tommy Fury is a boxer by career, his actual boxing resume might not even be much better than the YouTube boxer Jake Paul. But anyway, for the sake of this video, let's take a look at his actual skills. Since he has a ridiculously long reach at 80 inches versus Jake Paul's 76 inches, he's been able to use his lead hand as a good rangefinder and also to just throw off jabs to manage distance. But the problem is when he keeps his lead hand out too far, and you'll notice that he often gets punished when his opponent manages to get inside the pocket, and you'll see this in multiple fights of his. And on top of that, his defensive style is honestly very similar to his brother Tyson Fury's, where he keeps his hands low and mainly relies on his head movement and essentially leans back. But the problem with that is he doesn't share the same height as his brother and often gets clipped while he's moving back. And in general, that method of defense just doesn't seem to work out well for him. And to be honest, Tommy Fury just doesn't have that much punching power, and I think there's going to be a significant discrepancy in that aspect between Jake and Tommy. Now, after hearing all of this, you'll probably say, well, then Jake Paul should easily win this fight, right? And I'd say, well, it's not that simple. Even though Jake really does have all of those advantages I mentioned, you really can't underestimate Tommy Fury's ability to make any fight boring. The reality is, Tommy Fury's game plan for this fight most likely would be to stay on his bike and outpoint Jake Paul from range with his jab throughout the fight. And even though he's ridiculously predictable since he essentially throws the same 3 combinations throughout all of his fights, there's a good chance he uses his reach advantage to keep this fight on the outside where he wants it. And yes, there will always be a chance that Jake Paul gets a knockout when he steps inside the pocket, but in reality, in that situation, Tommy Fury would just go full damage control mode and clinch him up and neutralize Jake Paul's combinations. So in other words, the bad news for us fans is that Tommy Fury is most likely going to make this a very boring fight by managing the distance and the timing of the fight to neutralize Jake Paul's offensive output. Because let's put it this way, Tommy Fury is actually a career boxer, and if he was to get knocked out by a YouTube boxer like Jake Paul, that would 100% be a career-ending move for Tommy Fury. And so if the situation was to get hairy, I think Tommy Fury would do literally anything he can to survive the fight and at least bring it to a decision with his integrity at least slightly intact. And if this fight does go to a decision, if you're familiar with boxing whatsoever, you would know just how corrupt the judging is. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw some ridiculous scoring in favor of the athlete that shares the last name of one of the greatest heavyweight boxing fighters ever. And with Jake Paul to win at minus 175 odds, even though I think Jake Paul definitely has a path to victory here, I think there's a high chance that this fight goes to decision, and if it does, you really can't trust these boxing judges. And so the bet that I'll be making for this fight is for the fight to go to decision at minus 155 odds. Because like I said, even though Jake Paul has plenty of advantages in this matchup, I think Tommy Fury will do whatever he can to not end up in a career-ending situation where he gets finished by a YouTuber. And keep in mind, Jake Paul wasn't able to finish his last fight against an aged Anderson Silva in an 8-round fight. So while I think Jake Paul might have some great moments in the fight where he lands an overhand right over Tommy's lead hand or a check left hook, I just don't think he'll get the job done and finish Tommy Fury. But anyway, let me know in the comments how you think this fight will go down. And like I said, if you want access to all of my UFC bets where the real money is made, be sure to hit the link in the description for my website, ufcbettingpro.com, so you can directly receive all of my UFC bets and breakdowns for every single UFC card, along with instant access to the UFC Betting Pro Discord community, where we discuss all things UFC and even watch the fights together. And be sure to watch these 2 videos right here for my breakdown for 2 massive fights coming soon and who I think will win them. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.